Whether the imperial economies were shaped primarily by physical geography or by social preference, it is unmistakable that the colonial legacy has made a major impact on South America and Latin American society and economy, and remains a challenge that South American leaders are seeking to overcome today. The colonial legacy, the shape of Latin American society, politics, and economics for over 200 years, has been characterized first by powerful European military and political leaders, the so-called caudillo tradition of political and military overlordship in Latin American colonies. Secondly, these societies have been marked by gross inequalities, and these inequalities have been reinforced by racial divisions, with a small European or Creole elite on top, controlling the major instruments of politics and economics, and a large Native American and Afro-American majority on the bottom. Fourthly, the economies of these countries have been overwhelmingly dominated by the extraction and sale of raw materials, minerals, agricultural products, and other natural goods that have been marketed abroad. And finally, the exploitation and marketing of these raw materials has been dominated to a significant degree by multinational corporations, largely from Europe and the United States, that have established themselves in Latin America and controlled much of these economies. The question has thus become, for Latin American leaders, how to overcome this colonial legacy, how to break out of this trap produced by authoritarian governments, low value-added raw material exports, a deeply divided, economically divided and racially divided society, and the exploitation by international corporations. There have been two major approaches to this problem. The first is what one might call development. Development, the theory of development, which has been promoted by Western economic and political leaders, such as John Kennedy, pictured here in the events inaugurating the Alliance for Progress, or partnership between the United States and Latin America in developing their economy. And also by European and American economists and political scientists who put forward theories of development and modernization. According to this theory, the international economy is a benevolent environment in which emerging countries, underdeveloped countries, can make their way toward development, first by exploiting their comparative advantage. That is to say, seeking out those products and those methods for which they have a particular advantage and marketing those on the international economy. This may begin, for example, with mineral goods or agricultural goods, which can be extracted locally and sold on the international market, and the profits used and reinvested in education, health care, and technology to raise the level of value added on the domestically produced goods, earn more money on the international market, and reinvest these profits for even greater advances in the future. According to this theory, a developed country can go from a producer of raw materials to a producer of high value added manufactured goods and services over a period of time that will raise the country from its status of underdeveloped to developed economy. In contrast to this theory of development, Latin American scholars put forward another explanation of the international economy and the approach that Latin American countries would have to take to this economy. This theory has been called, in Spanish, dependencia, or in English, dependency theory. Dependency theory also begins with an analysis of the international economy, but views the international economy and the international marketplace not as a benevolent environment, just waiting for developing countries to seek their comparative advantage and advance in the productivity and profits, but rather as a malignant and exploitative environment that helps keep dependent countries in a dependent status. Here is a cartoon that illustrates the approach dependency theorists have toward the international economy. Notice that in this cartoon, the cow is theirs, the grass is theirs, the milk is theirs, the buildings are theirs, and the only thing that is ours, that is to say the underdeveloped country, is the cow manure. From this point of view, the production of raw materials in a developed country are sold on the international market not to gain profits and advance the country, but are rather controlled by a partnership between the international corporations that help develop and market these goods and the authoritarian governments of these small Creole or European elites who, in combination with the international corporations, extract the profits for their own use and leave the society in an undeveloped state. In this view, dependency is not, these countries do not liberate themselves from dependency, but rather dependency is reinforced by this exploitative international economy, and the society is left deeply divided with unequal and mass poverty. If John Kennedy was the poster boy for development, for an example of how Latin American countries could make their way out of underdevelopment by exploiting the opportunities of the international economy, Che Guevara, the Argentinian revolutionary of the 1960s, might be thought of as the poster boy for dependency. For what Guevara offered was not gradual improvement of the economy through sales in international affairs, but rather domestic revolution that would seize control of the government and establish an autarkic economy that would ensure the profits remained for the people of Latin America. This debate between a development-oriented, internationalist, integrative economic strategy and an autarkic economic strategy that focuses on internal national development remains very much alive in Latin America today.